Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. And today I was looking at the October 2021 JW broadcasting, and they had this section that's for teenagers. I'll admit I haven't actually watched probably the last 2 or 3 JW broadcastings because I've been a little bit on the busy side. But anyway, I thought I would give this one a quick look, and they had something on a subject that I don't talk about too often, and that is evolution. So let's watch that together and see where it takes us. Run the intro. What is this little spinny move? Run the intro. Woo, 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 woo. Also, Winston's here. So if you guys want to say hi to Winston, then Winston, sit pretty. Winston, sit pretty. Good boy. That's Winston. You probably can't really see him too well, but those are his ears. His ears are his defining feature. I think these intros are just getting worse and worse and worse.
So I'm sitting in physics class, and all of a sudden, the subject of evolution comes up.
When my teacher asked me why, to give the reason why I don't believe in evolution, I remember all I could say was, it's just because I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses and that's my belief.
Many students actually believe, they seem so sure that evolution is a fact.
I could feel my hands my palms getting sweaty and just nervous.
I felt intimidated. I just sat there. I felt paralyzed, and I couldn't defend the truth.
Why can't I explain this? I could explain why I don't salute the flag so easily, why I don't celebrate birthdays so easily. I didn't understand why I couldn't explain this.
So this is a classic example of the witnesses not knowing what they actually believe, and yet being simultaneously 100% convinced that this thing that they can't explain is also real. And it's funny that she mentions, oh, well, I could explain why I don't salute the flag or why I don't celebrate birthdays, when both of those things have nothing to do with anything that's in the Bible itself. So that's kind of funny. But then you go into this evolution, and it's funny because they show the classroom and they have written on the whiteboard evolution and creation, as if this is an accurate depiction of what goes on in, I'm assuming, in an American classroom. Like they write on the whiteboard, okay, evolution or creation. It's like they actually think that people take creationism seriously, which I don't. Maybe I'm delusional, but it's really, you have to go to the corners of the internet, and the people that are arguing for creation and that outright deny evolution, as the witnesses do, are just, I would say, pathetic. It's a really pathetic logical argument that they're attempting to make. And as this goes on, we'll see just how solid and what sort of evidence and tools that the Jehovah's Witnesses have for defending their belief in creation. But I do find it interesting that she's physically and mentally distressed by this problem of, oh, we're talking about evolution, but I don't believe in evolution, but I also don't know how to explain it. And a lot of witnesses are in that exact same thing. If you walk up to, I would say, 70% of witnesses and say, hey, can you explain why Jesus came invisibly in 1919 and chose the Watchtower from the Bible? I'm almost certain that at very minimum, 70% would just be, abadi. That's all, folks. Hey, let me show you this video. Explain 1914. A lot of witnesses can't actually explain the things they believe, but they just go along with it. Anyway, let's continue.
Specific topic.
I had doubts, and I was asking myself questions like, does God really exist? Is the Bible accurate?
So that day after I came home from school, I went to my mom And I asked her, this is what happened at school, and I need answers.
I feel like I didn't know what to do, especially since my parents were not serving Jehovah. So I had to pray to Jehovah to help me.
So she sat me down at the computer. We went to jw.org, and then in the search box, my mom told me to type in anything that was the problem, what I had questions on. So we typed in evolution. That's when I clicked on the Origin of Life brochure. It just started coming in, everything started clicking as if there's a light bulb that went off.
The Origin of Life brochure. I recommend to anyone that doesn't know what the Origin of Life brochure is, do what this young lady is suggesting and go on jw.org, click on the Origin of Life brochure, and see if you think that everything just starts clicking and it all makes sense. Because that brochure is laughable. And when I was an active witness, I thought that thing was it didn't make any sense, logical sense. The points they were making were just ludicrous. Mind you, this is something that I often struggled with, and it's funny because I didn't really realize that it was such a big problem at the time. And it's interesting because even my brother, we were talking about it not once, but on many occasions. And we pretty much came to the conclusion that evolution by natural selection it exists. You can't deny that it exists.
So in one of the videos in the viewpoints on this Origin of Life section, it talked about the brain and how the brain is so complex that billions and billions of neurons are connected to one another. It amazed me so much that how, because of the brain, we can move our hands, we can move our feet, we can do facial expressions, we can do so many things because of this great part of the body, the brain.
Okay. I probably don't need to say this because I assume that most of the JW Thoughts listeners are at least up to speed enough to see what's going on here, but we'll just speed run it real fast. Complexity. Wow, I look out into the world and it's very complicated, and I am so incredulous that I can't think of a way that this could come about naturally. Or randomly, as they like to claim. So it must have a creator. Complexity is one of the lamest arguments that you can possibly make. It's so lame. It's what you do when you're backed into a corner and you say, "Well, look at the trees, but look at the trees. Humans, they can't create spider silk, and we can. Humans can't, create life. So, holy Moses. Okay, so just for a quick little rundown of it. Okay, so let's just say that you're walking through sorry, this is off the top of my head. Maybe not the best illustration, but we'll just run with it. Let's just say that you're walking through a desert and you come across a patch of green grass. Okay? Now, what are you going to conclude when you see that green grass? Well, you're going to say that, green grass doesn't just, that I'm aware of, happen naturally. It's manicured. It has the mowing lines in it. That doesn't happen just naturally. So therefore, sorry, I was waving at the FedEx driver that was dropping off dog food. If you're wondering that weird hand gesture, I'm waving again. What a friendly guy. Good guy. Anyway, okay, so yeah, that when you're walking through a desert, you're not going to find a manicured lawn. So if you find a manicured lawn, what conclusion will you come to? Well, someone must have been taking care of this. Someone must have, put this there and been maintaining it, right? Therefore, God. Now, we know that lawns exist. We know that people will keep and maintain a nice yard and lawn. We know those things have a natural answer. So what the witnesses do, though, is they take this problem of complexity and say, well, how else? Someone must have put it there. Someone must have designed it. Okay, but then what they do is they say, well, a supernatural deity that exists outside of time and space must have put it here. You can't solve a mystery with a bigger mystery. It's pretty simple, right? So if I'm walking through that desert and I say, oh, I wonder who's taking care. This seems random. Is this like some sort of like art piece that someone's doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And then the person next to me says, oh, well, I think that a fairy inhabits this place, and every time they fart, it sprouts a bit of green grass. So the green grass comes from a farting fairy. What is going to be a more logical conclusion? The natural one or the supernatural one? Like, the brain, it's so complicated. How could that have come about naturally? How could that have just spontaneously happened? Okay, if that's your issue, if complexity freaks you out, if you don't want to do hard research, if you don't want to do the science, if you don't want to spend the hours and hours and hours and hours it takes in order to understand this, then what's the point of just saying, well, something that's more complex came from nothing and designed this? It doesn't get you anywhere. It's the dumbest argument you can possibly make. I'm actually getting annoyed. I am physically getting a little warm. Whew. Take a deep breath, Wally. Holy. Anyway, so yeah, whenever they go to this complexity thing, and they're like, oh, well, the brain, now I can move my feet and my hands and all this. Okay, so what does that have to do with God? Like, in what state of mind are you in? Do you say, oh, yeah, this thing is complex, and the only way that I can explain it, even though there are answers out there, I'm just too lazy to find them, is to credit it with something that's even more complex, that's just always existed. It's ludicrous.
It was, the exact questions that I was having trouble understanding. And each question I was like, oh, I remember reading this in, one of the Watchtowers or with the books I was studying. But it broke it down into ways that, in words that are simple for me to understand at that point. So it was almost, it felt like Jehovah was talking to me through this brochure. And I was like, this is what I need to read. And that's what helped me get through it.
So I thought to myself, this couldn't have been made just by chance. It couldn't just exist by an accident. It had to be created. It had to be designed.
Boy.
So I was able to go back and I went to my science class and I told my teacher, I was like, I'm ready to explain why.
So here we go again. It's physics class. It's the same topic all over again, but this time it was different. I was able to defend my faith in Jehovah.
I realized that, Jehovah always provides the answers to any topic, anything. I just have to be willing to go and find.
Jehovah always provides the answers to any topic. I just have to go and find it. Let's just take a moment of silence and think about what she just said there. Hey, Jehovah. Why are you okay with slavery?
Whenever I have questions about anything, I look for the answers. But first, I pray to Jehovah. And Jehovah has made it so easy for us to find the truth. I'm totally convinced that whatever he says in the Bible, we can completely trust in it.
What could help you reason on these issues of God? Use your power of reason, examine the evidence, and meditate on creation. This has to be one of the saddest representations. Like, they don't even attempt. There's not even an attempt to try and discredit evolution. And usually when they do, they're misquoting scientists, and it's just an absolute joke. Or they're quoting scientists that aren't doing science. They'll quote a scientist that's writing an op-ed and treat that as if it's a scientific paper when the scientist is like a creationist. Like, what are you doing? Oh, I know that there's so much to talk about when it comes to evolution, and I guess I could make a video, a longer one, that's a little bit more in depth. Maybe I'll have some cool graphics and all sorts of stuff, and I can explain it for you guys, the listener, so that way it makes more sense. But I think that most people, maybe I'm delusional, but I feel like most people at this point in the world, in the universe, have basically all come along on board. Like, okay, we should probably stop arguing this. We just look really silly. So let's just try and fit the model of what we do know about the universe into our biblical understanding. I feel like most Christians, that's what they're up to. But man, if you get a fundamentalist Christian, Adam and Eve absolutely existed, the flood was real, and evolution is a hoax. You heard it first here on JW Thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.